Maria stood at the edge of the churchyard, hands clasped tightly in front of her, veil covering sightless eyes that had never known sunlight. Her white dress clung to her slim frame, borrowed and ill-fitting, a gift from the pastor's wife who pitied more than loved her. Behind her, the townsfolk whispered with venomous glee, "She won't see the man that doesn't come." Even a blind girl should know when she's been left. The groom had vanished before sunrise, his cowardice folded in a note left beneath a half-empty bottle. Maria said nothing, not even as laughter rose like a cruel wind through the crowd. The priest shifted awkwardly, his hand on her shoulder. "We can wait a few more minutes, child." She nodded once, unmoved. She wasn't waiting for him. Her ears caught every rustle, every change in breath, and though her heart ached, her spine stayed straight. Then came the hoofbeats. Slow, deliberate, louder than any sound in that tense square. A single rider emerged through the dust, tall, lean, wrapped in deerskin, with a hawk-feathered braid trailing down his back. He dismounted without a word, walking through the crowd that parted more from awe than welcome. Some gasped, others stepped back in fear. "Apache," someone hissed. "What's he doing here?" The warrior ignored them, his eyes locked on Maria. He approached the altar like it was sacred ground, stopping just short of her veil. "Are you Maria?" he asked, voice deep as canyon thunder. She lifted her chin. "I am." "You have been dishonored," he said. "I would restore that honor, if you will allow it." The crowd erupted, shouts of disbelief, slurs, threats, but Maria raised her hand. Silence fell like a stone. "And who are you?" she asked. "To speak for me?" The man bowed slightly. "I am Tahoma, son of Nantan, protector of the Red Wind clan." Maria's lips parted, breath catching. She had heard stories of the warrior who once saved a cavalry captain's child, who crossed mountains for justice. She took a single step forward, voice clear. "If your spirit is as brave as your voice, Tahoma, then you may take my hand." Gasps circled like vultures, but the warrior stepped closer and took her hand in both of his. "Then let the world watch," he said, "as I stand beside you." And the silence turned into stunned stillness. The tension outside the chapel broke like a dam as the townsfolk erupted in fury, voices tangled in outrage and fear. "He's a savage," a man spat. "This is our town, not some tribal circus." But Tahoma didn't flinch, his hand firm around Maria's as he turned to face the crowd. "She was shamed in your eyes," he said evenly, "but not in mine." Maria's lips curled slightly, not in anger, but defiance. "They never saw me," she said, "only my blindness." A rock flew from the crowd, striking the chapel wall inches from Tahoma's head. He didn't move, but the next one he caught mid-air. "No more," he said, voice low, dangerous. "She is under my protection now." Sheriff Kilroy shoved his way through the crowd, one hand on his holster. "This ain't Apache country," he growled. "You're trespassing, and you're provoking my people." Tahoma stepped forward, calm as rising dusk. "You are provoking hate," he replied. "I offered peace. You spit on it." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "You really want to marry this girl?" Tahoma turned to Maria, lifting her hand so gently it made even the cruelest hearts falter. "Yes," he said. "She sees clearer than any man here." A hush spread. Maria stepped forward, chin high. "And I choose him." The crowd recoiled as if slapped, and the priest hesitated, eyes flicking to the sheriff. "I can't," he stammered. Maria turned toward him, eyes vacant but voice sharp. "You blessed a man who fled. Will you deny one who stood?" The priest swallowed, then nodded slowly. "If both souls are willing, I will speak the words." As vows were exchanged under a burning sky, Some wept quietly, some turned and left in shame. But a few remained, rooted by something they could not name, honor, perhaps, or truth long denied. After the kiss, Tahoma led Maria down the steps as the church bell rang softly above. But before they could reach the horses, the sheriff stepped in their path. "You think it ends here?" he asked. "We don't forget?" Tahoma stared him down. "Nor do I, but I forgive what cannot hurt us anymore." And with that, he lifted Maria onto his horse, mounted behind her, and rode away, leaving the chapel behind, but not the fire that had begun at its doors. The ride through the open plains was long and silent, but Maria held tight to Tahoma, her cheek against his back, breathing in the scent of cedar and leather. She didn't ask where they were going. She only listened, to the wind, to the birds, to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. When they finally crossed the dry creek bed into canyon country, Tahoma spoke. "We are close now. My people wait for us." Maria straightened, sensing the change in the air, less tension, more stillness. "Do they know what happened?" "They will understand," he said. "They remember what it means to take in the wounded." As they crested the ridge, Maria heard singing, low, rhythmic, welcoming. The Red Wind clan had gathered in a circle, their eyes fixed on Tahoma as he dismounted and helped Maria to the ground. An elder stepped forward, her silver braid reaching her waist. "Is this the one they mocked?" she asked. Tahoma nodded. "But not for long." The elder reached for Maria's hands, her fingers calloused but warm. "You walk with spirit strength," she said, "and spirit sight. That is a gift, not a wound." Maria's eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. "I have never been told that before." "Then those who told you were blind," the elder said simply. That night, under starlight, the clan welcomed her with stories, drums, and bread baked in coals. Children sat wide-eyed as Maria spoke of the chapel and how Tahoma stood for her. An old man nodded. "He has always chosen the hard path," he said, "but it leads to truth." Later, as they sat by the fire, Maria reached for Tahoma's hand. "They honor me more than my own people ever did." "Then they are your people now," he said, "and I will show you every part of this land, how the wind speaks through stone, how the hawk reads the valley. You will know it all." Maria smiled faintly. "And what will I show you?" Tahoma looked at her, firelight dancing in his eyes. "How to see without eyes," he said, "how to listen deeper than sound." They sat in silence after that, not as strangers, not even as lovers, but as two who had chosen each other against the world. And somewhere in the distance, the night breathed easy. The next morning brought thunder, not from the sky, but from hoofbeats echoing down the canyon pass. Tahoma rose before dawn, sensing it before the others stirred. By the time the dust plume crested the southern trail, he had already armed himself and sent the children to the inner caves. Maria stood near the fire pit, her fingers tense on her walking staff. "They've come, haven't they?" she asked. "Yes," Tahoma said. "Men from the town, armed. They bring shame like a flag." Maria's jaw tightened. "Then I will not hide." "No," Tahoma said gently. "You will stand where they can see you." The riders arrived in a cloud of dust and hate, Sheriff Kilroy at the front, flanked by 5 men with rifles and hard eyes. "We've come for the girl," he barked. "She was taken." "She chose," Tahoma replied, stepping forward, unshaken. "This is Red Wind land, not yours." Kilroy spat. "You think we care for lines drawn in dirt? She's under our law." Maria stepped beside Tahoma, lifting her chin toward the sound of Kilroy's voice. "Your law let me be mocked, abandoned, and almost stoned." It has no claim on me now. One of the riders raised his rifle. You'll regret this, blind girl. He can't protect you forever. Tahoma's voice cut through the rising tension. If you fire here, the land will never forget your footsteps. Leave while you still ride free. Kilroy sneered, but his men hesitated. They weren't expecting a crowd of clan warriors silently forming a line behind Tahoma, each armed, each calm, but unreadable. The standoff stretched like a drawn bow until Kilroy cursed under his breath. This ain't over. It is for you, Maria said quietly. Because next time you come, I won't speak, I'll sing, and the hills will carry your shame farther than your bullets ever reached. Kilroy turned and rode out, rage smoldering in his wake, his authority cracked but not yet shattered. As the dust settled, Tahoma turned to Maria. You faced them. She nodded slowly, and I heard what fear sounds like when it meets its match. That night, as the storm finally rolled across the sky, they sat close under a hide blanket, listening to thunder roll. Not in fear, but in victory, for they had stood, and the land had stood with them. The rains came heavy and long, turning the canyon floor into a river and sealing the Red Wind clan inside their sacred caves for 3 days. While others gathered for warmth and stories, Maria sat with the elders, her fingers tracing stone etchings as old as memory itself. This is how we kept history, said Kachina, the silver-haired elder. By touch, before ink, before paper, the blind were always our first keepers. Maria stilled, hands trembling over the grooves in the wall. They trusted the blind with the past? Because you cannot be deceived by appearances, Kachina said. Only by silence. Tahoma watched from the shadows as Maria absorbed each line of history with reverent grace. He saw how the clan began to look to her, not with pity, but with deep respect. At night she told stories from her childhood, of music, of her mother's garden, of the scent of spring she learned by name, not by sight. The children listened, wide-eyed, as she described colors she had never seen but somehow understood. On the third night, Tahoma brought her a carved flute. It belonged to my brother, he said. He taught me how to hear the desert breathe. Maria took it slowly, running her fingers along the smooth reed. Will you teach me? No, he said softly. You will teach the flute how to speak your song. She lifted it to her lips and played, not expertly, not even tunefully, but with heart. The notes were broken, wandering, filled with longing. The cave fell silent. You hear it? She whispered. Tahoma leaned in. I do. That same night, a child was born in the clan, and the midwife insisted Maria remain nearby. She has the spirit's calm, the midwife said. Let her song fill this place. Maria played again, and the newborn cried not in fear, but in recognition, as if the sound reached back to the womb itself. Afterward, as the rain slowed and stars blinked awake through breaks in the clouds, Maria sat beside Tahoma outside the cave mouth. Why didn't they fear me? She asked. Because you came to them with no sword, no mask, and no shame, he answered. And now they carry your name as one of their own. She rested her head on his shoulder. Then let them carry it long, for I will not leave this land unless it's in song. The fire came just before dawn, a blaze rising from the northern ridge where the clan kept their sacred banners, smoke curling into the wind like a warning howl. Tahoma was on his feet before the alarm rang, sprinting toward the ridge with half the warriors close behind. Maria stood at the cave's edge, fingers clenched around her staff, the smell of ash thick in her lungs. This wasn't lightning, she said. It's too clean, too sharp. She was right. When Tahoma returned, soot across his arms and rage in his eyes, he carried a broken spearhead, a piece of steel not forged by any native hand. "Kilroy," he spat. "Or whoever rides under him now?" Maria tilted her head. "He wouldn't dare strike here himself." Tahoma's jaw tightened. Then he sent someone worse. That night, the flames were extinguished, but the threat remained. Tracks led back east, toward a band of hired guns camped beyond the ravine. Maria, listening to the scouts whisper, stepped into the circle without hesitation. "Then we go to them," she said. The elders exchanged glances. "You are not warrior-born," one said. "No," Maria agreed, "but I am the reason they came." Tahoma took her hand, voice steady but protective. "You're not bait." "No," she said. "I'm the voice they tried to silence. Let them hear it and tremble." 2 nights later, beneath the crescent moon, Maria stood at the edge of the enemy camp alone, wrapped in a ceremonial cloak, the carved flute at her lips. She played no melody, only one long, low note that carried like wind through bone. The men in the camp stood, drawn by the sound. Some laughed, others reached for rifles, but none fired, because they saw her, and behind her, rising from the brush like ghosts with blades, came the red wind. Tahoma led the charge with the silence of a shadow and the precision of fury. Within moments, the hired guns dropped weapons, stunned and surrounded. Kilroy himself, red-faced and desperate, stumbled forward. "This land doesn't belong to you," he shouted at Maria. "You're nothing but a blind girl and a savage's bride." Maria lifted her chin. "Then how does it feel to be beaten by nothing?" And with that, Tahoma stepped forward, driving his fist into Kilroy's chest like thunder, sending him crashing to the dust, powerless, broken, and finally silent. Kilroy lay gasping in the dirt, eyes wide with disbelief, as the Red Wind warriors closed around him, their expressions unreadable. Tahoma stood over him, breathing hard, blood dripping from a shallow cut above his brow. "You brought fire to sacred ground," he said coldly. "That is death among our laws." Kilroy's voice cracked, desperate. I was upholding the law of the county. She was stolen." "No," Maria interrupted, stepping forward, her staff tapping gently against the dry earth. "I was abandoned, humiliated, and you chose to let it happen because I wasn't worth protecting." She turned to the warriors. "He burned your flags, threatened your children. And for what? Power over a woman he threw away." The oldest warrior stepped forward, bowing his head to her. "What should be done?" Maria took a long breath, hearing the wind still carrying her flute's echo through the canyon. "He expects execution," she said. "He wants to die so he can wear martyrdom like a crown in the mouths of those like him." She turned toward Kilroy. "But I will give you something worse. You will ride to every town you poisoned, and you will speak the truth, not just about me, but about what you did here, and you will do it with my name in your mouth." Kilroy looked like he might spit, but Tahoma leaned closer, whispering with fire in his voice. "If she ever vanishes, even for a day, we'll come for you, and there won't be dust left to remember you." Kilroy looked away, broken. The warriors released him with scorn, throwing his weapon into the brush. He stumbled off into the night, defeated not by force, but by mercy. As the clan began the solemn task of rebuilding what had been burned, Maria sat by the ashes of the banner post, her hand resting over the earth. Tahoma knelt beside her. "You spared him," he said. "That takes more strength than the blade." "No," she replied quietly. "That takes vision." He turned toward her, his hand finding hers. "And what do you see now?" Maria smiled faintly. "A future that doesn't begin with revenge, but still knows how to end it." In the distance, the fire's smoke finally faded, leaving behind only clean air and the promise of something stronger than survival. Peace. Winter came early that year. quiet and white, blanketing the canyon in a silence even deeper than Maria had known before. Snow drifted through the pine needles above the Red Wind village, and the land seemed to breathe slower, more thoughtful. Maria wrapped herself in a thick elk-hide cloak, fingers tracing the contours of her staff as she walked with Tahoma through the outer ridges. "You don't stumble anymore," he said softly. "You walk like you've always known this place." She smiled. "Because I've learned to listen to it. Every rock, every shift in the air, it speaks." He reached for her hand, rough against the softness of her fingers. "You've become a part of it now, not just among us, but of us." That night, the clan gathered in the lodge for the snow blessing. Maria was given the honor of lighting the first ember, her hands guided gently to the ceremonial stone. As the fire sparked, the circle let out a single hum of approval, a tradition as old as the canyon itself. "You have brought us not only light," the elder said, "but balance, sight in the unseen, peace after rage." Maria lowered her head, humbled, but she spoke clearly. "You brought me home when I was cast out. You saw me whole when others only saw loss. I can never repay that." "You already have," the elder replied, "with music, with courage, and with love." After the ceremony, as the fire burned low and children drifted to sleep under buffalo hides, Tahoma led her outside once more. Snowflakes danced in the moonlight, brushing her face like feathers. "Will you stay?" he asked, his voice quieter than before. "Forever?" Maria turned to him, her eyes blind but her soul clear. "I am yours. This land is mine. There is no other path for me." He took her in his arms, their foreheads touching beneath the frozen stars. Around them the snow continued to fall, soft, unhurried, as if even winter itself honored the stillness they had earned. And when Maria tilted her head to listen, she heard no threat, no doubt, only the soft rhythm of her name carried gently on the wind. Not as the blind girl, not as the broken bride, but as the woman who had claimed her own story, and the warrior who stood beside her. Spring returned with quiet footsteps, coaxing life from frozen roots, and with it came the final rite, a ceremony the Red Wind clan only held once every decade, when the land chose its next guardian. Tahoma stood beside Maria at the gathering stone, his expression unreadable. "They've chosen you," he said, "to speak before the circle, to name your place in the wind." Maria's fingers tightened on her staff. "But I'm not of this blood." "You are of this spirit," he answered, "and that matters more." As the tribe formed their sacred circle, drums thudded like heartbeats through the ground. One by one, clan members stepped forward, naming what the wind had taught them: strength, patience, fire, memory. When her turn came, Maria stepped into the center. The silence was complete. She lifted her face to the breeze and spoke not as a bride, not as a guest, but as a woman rooted deep in land and truth. "The wind taught me that sight is not in the eyes," she said. "It's in the knowing, in the way footsteps change when lies are spoken, in the way a storm builds long before the clouds gather. I was blind, yes, but it made me listen. It made me dangerous to those who live in masks." Murmurs rippled through the circle, not of doubt, but of awe. "And I name myself Song of the Wind," she continued, voice clear and proud, "because what they tried to silence became louder than their hate." The elder stepped forward, laying a painted stone at her feet, the mark of belonging. "Then you are not guest," she said. "You are sister, and your voice is part of our story." That night, the tribe celebrated not with war cries or conquest, but with laughter, firelight, and the haunting music of Maria's flute echoing across the valley. Even the owls stilled to listen. As the stars wheeled overhead, Tahoma led Maria to the same ridge where they first spoke of home. "You changed us," he said, "and you changed me." She turned toward him, one hand resting on his chest. "You found me when I had nothing, and gave me everything I could not see." He took her hand in his. "You are not just a name. You are legend now." And the wind, as if agreeing, carried her melody deep into the heart of the earth. Years passed, like flowing river water, steady and sure, and the name Song of the Wind became more than a title. It became a story whispered across deserts, sung over fires, and taught to daughters born beneath open skies. Maria no longer walked with hesitation. The woman who once stood abandoned in a churchyard now led councils beside her husband, her voice sought in times of peace and in storms of conflict. Children ran to her with questions, women sought her wisdom, and even the stubborn warriors who once doubted her listened when she raised her hand. She could still not see, but it mattered no more than whether the wind could be held. It was the way she moved through the world that made her powerful. One morning, as the sun climbed over the cliffs, Maria stood alone at the edge of the same ridge where Tahoma first told her she was seen. Behind her, laughter from the village echoed through the trees. She raised the flute to her lips and played a single note, soft, steady, eternal. Tahoma stepped beside her, older now, but with fire still in his eyes. "The stories have grown," he said. "They say you were born from the canyon wind." Maria smiled, lowering the flute. "Let them believe it. Sometimes truth needs wings." He took her hand. "There's a girl in Black Hollow," he said. "Blind, mocked, alone. They've sent word, asking if she can come live here." Maria didn't hesitate. "We will give her what I was denied. A name, a place, a fire of her own." They stood together, watching the wind stir dust across the canyon floor. The Red Wind clan was no longer feared in shadows, no longer isolated. They were guardians now, voices in the open, and Maria had become their heartbeat. When the sun reached its highest point, Maria lifted her hand to feel its warmth. "I was never meant to be a bride waiting at a church," she whispered. "I was meant to be the voice they couldn't drown." Tahoma nodded. "And now your voice is everywhere." As the wind swirled around them, lifting her melody high into the blue, the earth below whispered in agreement. The blind bride had become something far greater, not just claimed, but become the claim. And her name would never be mocked again.